I just want to welcome the viewers here that are here to see this demonstration of artificial intelligence using some of the publicly available resources that have come about in the past 6 months or so. This is the Fort Kent Public Library. My name is Andrew Burton. I'm the director of the library, but I also have a little bit of experience in early artificial intelligence development. Years ago, I used to work in language recognition and GPS technology, geographic positioning systems, the satellites that we have, and such. And we had developed some early machine learning applications that would take large amounts of data and try to make predictions on how that data might change across time. Things like trying to model the stock market to try to predict how it might turn out from one day to the next. This was back in the 90s, but we especially were looking at things that are still being used today, specifically genetic algorithms. And genetic algorithms are sets of problem-solving techniques and sets of algorithms that you can get a population of algorithms, different ways of solving the same problem, and you can, in a way, breed them to produce a new population of solutions that are using techniques and methods from the previous set that you had, and then you evaluate them and you can and see how well they work, and then you breed them again and make a new set and you evaluate them, and they can go across thousands and thousands and millions of generations of development in a short period of time, until eventually you have ways of dealing with problems in large masses of data that even the people who originally set up the genetic algorithms are not really sure what's going on inside, because it gets so complex. So but that's about the extent of my experience with it. So what I've been doing is I've seen these developments coming into the public domain. I've been exploring them, and I've been very interested in seeing how they do. And so what I'd like to start off first is let's talk about what AI is. And there are very complicated definitions, and there are ones that are sort of simpler ones. And so what it's come to mean is it stands for artificial intelligence. And what it's come to mean is a set of applications and complex tasks and such that are being performed by computers that are able to change themselves in order to try to solve whatever problem or issue or set of questions are being asked of them. And so we see them in things like maps and navigation, where that shows you different routes to get from one point to another. These are artificial intelligences that are trying to solve a very, very classic type of problem, which is trying to get from point A to point B in the most efficient means available. And this is sometimes it's called or references a classic problem called the wandering salesman problem. But we also see it in facial recognition and facial detection, that these systems are able to take large sets of data, which is visual data, and they can take this data and use it to identify people. These systems can use that visual data to determine the emotional state of the person that is being photographed or being shown in video, and also draw a huge amount of other conclusions from that set of data. Then there's text editors. The autocorrect, when you type into your smartphone and it finishes your sentence for you, those are versions of AI that are making predictions based on how you've done things before and how other people have done things before to predict what you might do. And that's where you get these chatbots from. And the chatbots, like ChatGPT is one of the most famous ones, and there's several others. They are often compared to these autocorrect systems where they take they make predictions of how an entire conversation might go. They make that are based on huge amounts of data. The researchers pull together databases of responses, of just straight knowledge. They might have available a set of all the data available on the internet for a while, or give it access to the internet, so that it uses this huge amount of data to create predictions on how things might go in a conversation. And once these predictive systems become complex enough, they start to develop characteristics that are uncanny at times, and I'll show you how that works. And then, of course, there's digital assistants and social media. You'll see that a lot of the interaction that you observe on social media may not be actual human beings that you're interacting with. Very often, they can be just chatbots that are responding as robots to sound human, and they sound like they're up to things. And also, people receive phone calls all the time. I've received phone calls where someone is talking to me, and after a couple of minutes or a couple of sentences, I realize that they're not acting like a human would act on the phone. I'm getting recorded responses, and these are becoming more complicated and more difficult to identify. And so this is what's happening there. And then finally, you're going to have things like tech support, people who are trying to call you to sell you stuff. These types of things are starting to use chatbots with a text-to-voice application, so that it's somebody talking, sounds like somebody talking on the phone, and it's actually an AI that people are interacting with. But I'm going to start off today by looking at one of the really neat aspects of AI, and that's the text-to-image chatbots, or the AIs. And I'm going to be using a piece that I've become familiar with that is called Night Cafe. Night Cafe is a text-to-image generator that is available for free, and a lot of these are available for free, at least the earlier versions of these AIs, but soon they're going to be charging money for them because they can be valuable. The thing that you have with Night Cafe is that it takes a text prompt, which I'm going to be placing in here to describe what I want the AI to create. And so, for example, if I wanted the AI to create something like, oh, how about elephants in what's in the what's the New York, what's the square in New York? Times Square. Yeah, Times Square. Let's do show me flying elephants. Not show me, in Times Square. And let's just do like that, flying elephants in Times Square. And this is Night Cafe is taking a couple of different pieces that I have done before, and it's taking a couple of different engines and trying them out for me. I want to see what it produced for us. Okay, so it looks like it gave us something in Times Square. I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to go with a different style, and let's just make it elephants in Times Square. Sometimes it doesn't work quite as the way you expect it to. All right, let's try this. See if it'll do something for us this time. There we go. All right, so here we have 4 images that it produced, and we're going to look at the first one here. And what the AI is doing is it's going through and it's taking the elements of my prompt, that elephants in Times Square, and it's able to correctly determine that I'm talking about an actual place known as Times Square. It's able to identify that the word elephant corresponds to this creature with trunks and such on it, and it's able to produce and place those elements within an environment that evokes Times Square. Now this is an actual picture of Times Square. It's one that's based on pictures of Times Square. But you can have anything you want in these text things and in these prompts. And the prompts can learning how to write prompts is starting to be a new career path for people using AI, because you can do, let's do a dog sled race in Fort Kent, hyper real. Hyper real is a term that is used in these prompt creations to affect how the image will do its thing. But we'll see what we come up with here. There we go. All right. So again, none of these pictures actually occurred in Fort Kent. And you can see that there's odd things going on. Like there are a huge number of paws in this picture down here that probably far exceeds the number of dogs that are pulling the sled. But you get the sense of the dogs with their dark and white faces, the huskies and such. And this is a common element of many different images. But you can see like just some of the curves look a little off and such. But this stuff, these image generators are starting to become very common, and they're becoming very precise. So, and again, you look at this. This looks like a photograph. It looks like a slightly blurred photograph, and that's where the hyper-real comes across. Other things that I've created. No. Let's go back to my creations. There we go. I wanted to do. A while back, I was trying to do sled dogs reading a book, and this was an image that it generated for me. I just decided to use that. And those dogs don't exist, those books don't exist, that background doesn't exist. The AI just created them. And again, it looks real, with some errors and stuff. Because again, you look at it, the curvature of the forehead here is off. So it looks, there's errors in it. So, but again, these are just improving. So that's what on the visual side, the AIs are quite interesting, and the questions that come up with that happen are: who owns this image? Do I own this image? Do I have a copyright to this image? I certainly didn't create it. I wrote a prompt for it, and had some text that I put together, and copyrights law says that I own that prompt. But this right here, nobody created it as far as the way we sense what a person is. And so the only legal case that I've seen right now is that there was a court case that I read about where a judge determined that there was not a copyright on this image at all. Anyone can use it, because there's not a person to hold that copyright. So interesting things that come up there. All right, so one of the things that people have been seeing quite a bit of is these large language model AIs, and that's where you have your chat GPTs and such that occur. And I'm going to bring up a chat GPT, interface. And what we have here is this. I have a subscription to ChatGPT. We're going to type a message here, and then ChatGPT will be responding to us and keeping a record of our interaction. It'll scroll upwards. So we could do anything that we wanted. We can ask it anything we want, or just type things that we want. Suppose we wanted to write a poem about airplanes and air travel. Make it 5 lines long. See how fast it went? And for those of you that can't read this, ChatGPT responded in less than a second with a 5-line poem. In skies vast and boundless they soar high, metal wings embracing the azure sky, airborne vessels bridging lands afar where dreams take flight above the stars, airplanes carrying hopes wherever they fly. And there you go. Or I could say, tell me a story about a young person taking their first commercial airline flight. So, let's go back. I generated this story, and it looks like it's about 200, 300 words in, again, less than a second. And it reads, once upon a time in a small town nestled among rolling hills there lived a curious and adventurous young person named Emily. With eyes sparkling with anticipation, Emily had always dreamed. And it goes on and on and on, and tells a story about Emily packing her suitcase, going on an airplane, being amazed at it, and then taking off in flight, how the houses became smaller. She's above the world, and Emily's imagination soared, so it's able to write about the internal dialogue or narrative that a person might have in their own head, the feelings of a made-up character to do this stuff. You can, as the plane descended towards their destination, she felt sad, and then she gets there. Now, this story's fine, but let's make the story more exciting. Just thinking. Now we're getting a little bit of work here. Now let's see what we've got. Okay, so it tells us pretty much the same story, but now Emily has become Max, and Max's heart throbs with an insatiable thirst for adventure. And so it uses adjectives to create more energetic language, but it's still the same story. They go to an airport, they take off, they look at it, and they're amazed, and then they have feelings when they come to the end of their flight. And so, yeah, they go through some turbulence, and the attendants remained composed. But again, it's telling a narrative that makes sense to us as reading it, and it raises the question in my mind, does this AI know something? Does it know a story in the same way that a person can know a story? That we can think about what happened in the past of a character, what is happening to it at the current time, and what could possibly happen to it in the future, and the impact of all that stuff on that imaginary character. Does the AI somehow recognize that? And I think that this is real important. So here's something that I want to show you. Let's suppose we go to, I'm going to go to, let's find a, that's right. Hang on, that's Washington Post. This is the Washington Post that I use as a source for news. All right, and we have AM radio is being removed from mini cars, is an article that's going on here. And I'm going to snag this article. I copy it. And then I'm going to go back to ChatGPT. Where are you, ChatGPT? There you are. And I want to summarize the following text. Let's see where we are. Sunrise America's Love Affair, got that. Okay. All right, so, and here's the summary. It takes this entire piece of text here that I entered in here. Oh, you can't see. where it says summarize at the top. So it takes all this text from the article that I used in the Washington Post article, and if the Washington Post wants to come after me, this is for learning, and I'm not trying to do anything. Takes that entire article and it summarizes it into a single paragraph. And and the long-standing relationship between America's love for automobiles and AM radio, which provided the soundtrack for various experiences like road trips and family sing-alongs, is facing a breakup. And it continues. And if you look back at the originating text, you can see it talks about a much more, it talks about more specific actions that people would take with AM radio, like going lovers' lanes, keeping the lonely company with ball games and chat shows, spark family sing-alongs. But then it talks about the breakup is entirely one-sided, which the summary also spoke of. The breakup is facing a breakup. And so it's taking those parts of the article and it's able to make a much shorter article. And a lot of people are using ChatGPT and other types of software to summarize long treatises into something that's shortened, but you can do the same thing in reverse. You can also take, let's do create a 4-paragraph essay on Moby Dick, themes, characters, and action. And here we are. Moby Dick by Herman Melville is a classic novel that delves into profound themes, captivating characters, and thrilling action. And this is where you come up with the problems with ChatGPT and these AIs, is that what's to stop me if I'm a high school student or a college student from simply copying and pasting this text into another document and claiming that it's mine? Did I write that? No, I wrote the prompt. Did I read it? I would, because I also know that sometimes these large language models will create incorrect information, not because they're trying to lie. It's actually very much like the way people create incorrect information, because usually when you're talking to folks, they're not trying to lie to you. They're just giving you what they think. They're just telling you what they perceive and such. And so, this type of text can have errors in it. And so if you use this, then you need to go through and rewrite it and edit it and fact check it very extensively. But what I could do is say, how about give me citations for the Moby Dick. What did I ask for? An essay? Yeah. Okay. So I asked it to give me citations for the Moby Dick essay that we just had it create, and ChatGPT responds that I apologize for the confusion, but as an AI language model, I don't have direct access to external sources or the ability to provide specific citations. And so it tells us that there are limitations on the information that it can get to. And a lot of the public-facing AIs have these types of limitations to keep people from creating unsuitable content or illegal content and also to keep people from or to keep the AI language model from providing information that could perhaps get the company that operates the AI in trouble. So their ChatGPT is reluctant when it comes to creating, say, legal documents. It'll say, I can't do that. If I wanted it to say, write a will for a 70-year-old man named Greg Smith. Oh, so there we go. So, last will and testament of Greg Smith. And so when I say this, I tried this the other day and didn't want to write a will, but it wrote a will today. So you look at the will, and it's it makes up things. So in the will for Greg Smith, it talks about his eldest son, Mark, which I certainly didn't talk about, and his daughter, Sarah Johnson. And this is determining who the executor is, talking about the debts and expenses, and they're going to have the executor pay all the just debts and funeral expenses and any estate administration costs from my estate. It's written in a language that certainly sounds like a will. And so, as a person who's wanting to maybe write a will for myself or some such, I might take this rough draft and go through and say, well, I'm going to pencil in my name into places, and so I can have it write a will for myself, but just call it Greg Smith and some offspring that I have and any properties that I have, and it would generate something that I could use as a starting place. So this is kind of some of the things that we're seeing here. Now here's something that I have been especially impressed with. And then we'll see if we have anything else that we can do here. But I want to get a document that I just made. Oh, Andrew. Oh, that's right. I'm going to actually go back to something I did before. Where are you? And okay, so this is a previous discussion that I had with ChatGPT. And in this one, I'm going to go to the... Okay, can't spell, blah, 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 blah. All right, there we go. All right, so in this previous conversation that I had with ChatGPT, and this was, in the last 20 or 30 days, I told it, you're no longer a friendly assistant. You are now a DM, a dungeon master, for a new D&D 5e, Dungeons & Dragons 5e based campaign taking place in a forest of giant trees. There is one player in the room with you. You will be my DM, me, the person who's talking to ChatGPT. Tell me what to do, including when I need to roll a dice. Ask questions as needed, for example, what my character is and the result of those die rolls, and tell me what I can't do or do for you. And you will act as the DM and run the game. Says, great, let's get started. First things first, let's create your character. is what ChatGPT says to me. And once we have your character details, we can start. And so I make up a character that is named Nisi, a ranger, lawful good, level 4, about 3 feet tall, weighs about 30 pounds, and has a charisma of 14, intelligence of 15. I just made this up. And then I told it to assign any other character roles to make sure that my character is balanced. I told ChatGPT to do that. And it did. And it gave me, and ChatGPT told that my character's wisdom is 18 and the constitution was 10. And a ranger, it tells me I have proficiency in light armor, medium armor, and so on. And then I asked, how does my adventure start? ChatGPT responds, as you walk through the dense forest, you hear a rustling in the undergrowth. Suddenly a large lumbering creature bursts out of the bushes in front of you. It appears to be a young owl bear, and it's injured. And I ask it, well, what spells do I have? And it responds by telling me what spells I have. And as I go along, I cast these spells, and in this case, I cast Speak with Animals. And you cast Speak with Animals and address the young owl bear. It looks at you with large brown eyes and responds, help, yes, please. I am injured and lost. Can you help me find my mother? She's out there somewhere. And it took me on an adventure where I helped it find its mother. By it asking me questions, and I certainly didn't come up with the owl bear. I didn't come up with the situation, anything like that. And so this is some of the things that you can do with AI, and this is just scratching the surface. People that are writing code for computers are having these AIs generate just strings and strings of code that write full applications, full programs that actually work when you put them into have them compile an actual program. There are things that are occurring with ChatGPT and other AIs that make a person interacting with them wonder if there is something looking back. And if there isn't yet, there will be soon, is what I suspect. That and when I think of an intelligence, I'm looking back on my own mathematics and physics background, because I studied in graduate school. I studied quantum physics, and they talk about how an observer causes the world to collapse, the wave to collapse into what we see. But it takes an observer, and I wonder if AI is an observer that can cause, or at least observe the outcome, say in the double slit experiment, a classic experiment in physics or something, to make that respond in ways. And I don't know if it's there yet, but I suspect it will be soon. And the thing is that these AIs are going to have a huge impact on jobs. They're going to have a huge impact on creativity. They're going to have a huge impact on so many aspects of our lives. And the potential for it to cause disruption is huge. But there's also huge potential for AI to help humanity as well as to harm humanity. It's kind of like fire, in that fire is a very, very useful tool, and when it gets out of control, it just causes huge problems. And so these researchers that are working on it, they're not stupid people. They are some of the smartest people on the planet. And some of them are asking these questions about ethics and using AI. And they're the ones that are going to be answering it first, because the government is probably not going to respond quickly enough. And they're not going to put the lid on this box. Even if the government were to ban AI research and such, it is too valuable to armies, to governments, to large businesses, to individuals, that somebody will pay for it to be made. But some of the things that you might see happen in the future is having an AI personality that acts as a virtual companion. Or you can have an AI that is a security system in your home that is able to use facial recognition to know who the members of the family are and can help identify, say, when a child is starting to get into the chemical cabinet beneath the sink, and be smart enough to alert the parents that, hey, you know, the baby's getting into trouble. And it could be quite helpful in that way, where you combine the language capabilities and the visual capabilities that you have to create something quite useful. And how it's going to go forward is going to be the question. But what I wanted to do here, though, is just allow people to see some of the capabilities that are happening, because it's advancing very fast, and it's going to be in our little community here faster than you think, and probably already is. And so just be alert, try to check your facts. There's a lot of news outlets that are new news outlets that all they have are these chat bots creating articles, and nobody's really fact checking them. And it's not that the AI is lying to people. The AI is just doing what it's being told to do, and any false information that it's getting is going to be based on the database of information from which it's drawing its information to create these products like articles and images and things like that. But that's what I wanted to show folks today. So if you have questions, you know, send us an email at the library. I'll try to find resources for you, and I can also find references to bring you up to date on what's currently happening, though I will say that the developers are at least 6 months to a year or more ahead of what we're seeing in public. And so, you know, just know it's coming fast, though. Anyway, thank you.